Ready.
We'll wait a minute before we start talking.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Say the intro.
Welcome back to the ever-expanding Duderverse.
Where we make food and drink. Hi, babe.
Hi, babe.
We're without.
We are without today.
We're not even going to focus on his chair in the video.
No,
I don't even want it in it.
we don't want that reminder.
Cameron has the day off. Of all days, Saturday.
Ugh.
Gross.
Of all days to ask for a day off. Why ask for a weekend?
That's what I'm saying.
Why waste it on a perfectly good Saturday?
That's what I'm saying. Saturdays are work days.
What a chump.
I'd rather go Monday
Yeah.
and swim with all my friends who are working.
Yeah.
So alone.
That's the best way to swim.
Right? I'd go swimming, except I have one waxed leg
Yeah.
and one non-waxed leg.
Tell them why, though, babe.
Because you waxed one leg and not the other leg. That's
Don't
the end of the story.
No. Don't put it
That's
on me.
it.
I would have gone and done the other one, too. Don't put it on me.
You put the wax on me, I should be able to put the blame on you. It hurt. I didn't want to do the second leg. Shut up.
There we go. And it's that self-awareness, babe, that I love. Speaking of things I love about you, is that a good enough segue or no?
Our love story. Ooh, jazz hands. The long-awaited love story.
The long-awaited love story. I feel like people are going to be disappointed.
I plan to disappoint.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's... I don't know.
We could build it up.
We can build it up.
I met you on a mountain.
No, babe, that's already up there. Start on the ground.
Oh, I met her on the bottom of a mountain.
There we go.
And by the time we climbed the top, I asked her to be my girlfriend. She said no. I fell into a volcano.
We're back at the bottom again.
Reincarnated as someone she does enjoy. Now we're together.
Yeah.
How did you see it going? I don't even know. Where do we start?
I don't know. I don't know.
How about first meeting?
Yeah.
First meeting.
We've told this story to like friends, and you always take the first half, and then I come in.
Well, we could say both of our sides of the story because we both lived a different story.
Yeah. I think that'd be best. But we should take it all the way back to when we first met.
We first met.
Yeah.
I will start.
Okay.
I said I will start. I was...
Oh, you.
An apology. I thought I was going to start. I was 22, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Around 22. I used to work at a restaurant, a tiny little mom and pop cafe in Alaska, North Pole, Alaska, called Country Cafe. And I knew the owners really well, a Korean woman and her family. I helped them out a lot. And then I eventually moved back to Arkansas with my mom and whatnot. And then one summer she calls me and she's like, I really want you to come up here. You can stay with me. Help me in the restaurant. And I was like, for sure. I miss Alaska. Why not? So this was after living in Alaska for about 5 years already. I went back to Alaska when I was 22. And she let me stay with her, but I had way more responsibility. I was working 7 days a week. She took good care of me, though. She paid me really well. She was really nice. So I was working there as a dishwasher. I did everything but cook, basically. I would wait tables if it got too busy or bus tables, do everything, and then clean up on Mondays. So I come back. It wasn't too long after I came back that she started working there. And just the coincidence of it all is weird because it's such a small place and we have one waitress who is part of the family, Myra, we never branched out, rarely ever. We would have maybe one other waitress on staff at all times, but it was normally just Myra doing day and night shifts most of the time. So we rarely ever hired waitresses, which was weird. So I remember I was in the kitchen and the cook, James, was like, hey, we have a new waitress. And I was 22, so my first things out of my mouth were, is she hot? And he's like, well, she's pregnant. So I was like, yeah, but is she hot? I was single at the time. And for many years after. So he said that. And I remember the first time I saw her, she didn't see me because I was creeping. She was like out in the foyer area. And I like peeked out to look at her. And I was like, shut up, James. She's totally hot. And very pregnant. She was very pregnant as well. All I remember is just big eyes. Just big eyes. That's all I saw. And that's the first time I think for the first 3 days I didn't say a word to you.
No.
I was way too nervous to even come up to you.
Yeah.
And I think the first thing I ever said to you ever in our existence of ever is, don't worry about it. You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Because you were getting in trouble.
Because I was getting in trouble, which I tend to do. So I got hired there at the Country Cafe. Okay, let's take it back. I got married when I was 18 years old. And I got married to somebody who had just enlisted in the Army. So our first deployment, assignment, whatever, was in Fairbanks, Alaska, which was very close to North Pole, which is where that restaurant was. And I needed a job. I could have lived happily and not had a job. Like, it was fine, but I needed a reason to get up and get out in the mornings or whenever. That's just been how I've always been. I feel better when I'm working. So we drove around, me and my ex, and literally that place was the only place that had like a help wanted sign. And I walked in.
I wrote it.
A help wanted sign, which was unheard of in California. Like I literally have never seen a help wanted sign until I moved to Alaska. And I had not experience serving, but I had experience with customer service at the time. So I was like, I mean, I'll do it. And I walked in and I greeted Soon immediately. And immediately she took me back and showed me to Myra and was like, she looks like Michaela. And I guess Michaela was her granddaughter. And Soon was like, look at her eyes, pointing at my eyes. So I got hired because of said eyes.
I noticed.
And
said eyes.
She literally was like, you can start tomorrow. And the very next morning was when I started working. And my first time I ever met him was Soon actually stopped me when I walked in on that shift. And she was like, so my boy Brandon is back. He's like my son. He's a really good person. He's gonna be your busser now because Michael was there before you and she had let Michael go.
Right.
Yeah. And she was like, just so you know, he works here. I don't want you thinking like there's a stranger in the restaurant. I know him. He's a really nice kid. You guys are gonna get along fine. And boy, was she right. Because I do remember getting in trouble a lot because I was late a lot because I wasn't used to driving in Alaska in the winter.
No, she literally would call me in the mornings. This was months after and say, hey, tell Soon I'm going to be late. There's a moose in my driveway.
Yeah. And I wasn't used to that at all. So yeah, I got in trouble a lot. And I do remember that interaction, but I don't know. I feel like we got along like right off the bat. We understood each other. Yeah, we understood each other's humor, even though we had polar opposite senses of humor. Like, he was very funny, very witty, super incredibly clever, but clean. Like, didn't cuss at all. Like, my perfect little Christian boy, nothing, whatsoever. And I was
Not. To put it quickly.
yeah. I honestly don't even know how we got along so well, but we did.
I don't, opposites attract, I guess.
Yeah. We became friends almost immediately. We developed inside jokes almost immediately.
Plus, we were the only two people there that worked, and we'd spent 8-9 hours a day together.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a lot of time
To just kill.
to just goof around. It wasn't a super busy restaurant.
Mm-mm.
It had its hours, but the rest of the time was waiting for someone to come in.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of inside jokes
Yeah.
and a lot of weird things.
Yeah, we almost choked on mandarins a couple times.
Choked on mandarins.
We would throw marshmallows across the restaurant and see who could make it into whose mouth. We leave each other mean notes on dry erase boards on the refrigerator.
Where all the customers could see.
Yeah. I would put breast milk in his coffee. He would put crackers in my Ugg boots.
So it was equal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I don't know. I think the first time, do you remember when that was? Like month? When you
No.
started?
When I started, no. I remember I was 5 months pregnant when I met you. So 5 months backtrack from October. I don't know what that would make it.
May?
May. Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was around May, which is weird because the first time we ever hung out was for Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Which was in February, nearly a year later.
Mm-hmm.
Because I worked there 7 days a week. So every single day I had a key to the restaurant. I would go in. And then on Mondays was cleaning days. So I would go in and clean. I'd be the only one there. But I always send her videos of like stupid stuff I was doing then. And then she'd send stupid pictures or videos back. And that's what we did all day.
Yeah.
Until it got to like a really aggressively mean back and forth. Like, see who can hurt the other person's feelings
the most.
the most.
I won.
But neither of us really got our feelings hurt.
Yeah.
So,
Except for one time I did bring up your narrow eyes and you were like,
too far.
no. And then I was like, heard. And I never have ever once teased him on that.
Oh, they're not narrow anymore. They're perfect.
They're perfect. So we became friends immediately. Really good friends. He actually knew my ex-husband. My ex-husband and him were actually very good friends.
We went and worked out together.
Yeah.
I was his guinea pig.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
He met my mom before he even met Autumn.
True. The first thing your mom ever said to me was, Dr. Pepper, please.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it because the way I lived it, I don't know.
What do you mean?
It all kind of organically fell into place. We just clicked so well. I hadn't had a friend like him ever because he became my best friend almost immediately because he was funny, but he was also very honest. He was there for me a lot of the times. I remember one time he called me and I was in a bad mood and I told him why. And then I had told him I just got in a fight with my ex-husband and he was like, well, what did you do? Like he was the type of person that was very unbiased even. He would be like, no, you need to apologize. I'm sorry, but you're in the wrong there. Like he was.
I said that a lot to you.
Yeah, he was a very good, unbiased friend. And that kept me in line and that I needed that. Because I always had yes people in my life. And I don't need that. I like for people to be able to call me out and tell me in a respectable way, hey, you're messing up. And he always did. But he was always very supportive. And then he would still make me laugh. And he was just there.
I think I didn't have a lot of friends because I worked 7 days a week and I lived with my cousins who are just as much workaholics as I am. One would work on the slopes as, a pipe welder in Alaska, and the other one worked as a full-time janitor for the school system.
Ooh.
So I never saw them. They never saw me. So the only friend I really had, and I just broke up with one of my exes before you started. Like, I was still going through that when I met you. And I just needed a friend. I didn't have any. So it was super nice to have someone around all the time, and we clicked really well. Is that your stomach?
That's my stomach.
Your stomach wants to tell a story, too.
Well, she was there the whole time.
Yeah. So the first time we actually ever hung out outside of work was a little over a year later.
Yeah.
Or a little under a year. The Super Bowl came around, and we were hyping up the Broncos.
Yeah, go Broncos.
Go Broncos. We knew good and well
Yeah.
they weren't going to... That was against Seattle, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was when they lost like so bad and it was embarrassing.
It was the embarrassing one.
But they were doing so good. I mean, they got to the Super Bowl.
They got to the Super Bowl.
They were doing so good.
She was like, hey, my husband's having a lot of his friends over. Do you want to come over? I'm making ceviche. Which is also the first time I've ever had ceviche.
Yeah.
Which is weird coming from Arkansas. So I was like, for sure. Because normally I'd say, nah, I'm good, and I'd rather go home. But I went. It was super fun. Everybody but us went for Seattle.
Yeah.
We lost.
We made T-shirts.
We were the only ones who made T-shirts, and we lost.
It was embarrassing.
But we had a good time. You had Autumn by then.
Yep.
Autumn was just the tiniest little baby.
Yeah.
I remember that. And from then, I don't remember. I vaguely remember we didn't hang out a lot.
No.
We would go to the mall every once in a while, and we'd walk around. If we ever did anything, I came to her house.
Yeah.
And me, her husband, and Autumn,
was
a baby. She did whatever they did. We had a movie night. She would make
food.
Rice. Because I loved her rice.
Yeah.
She'd always make food, and we'd watch movies, and then I would leave. Which it was super fun, and I kind of miss those days. We did a lot of stuff. Like,
he dyed my hair once.
I dyed your hair.
Yeah.
You started YouTube then around January.
Yeah.
When you started your YouTube channel. Because in February we did the Chubby Bunny Challenge.
Yep.
And then we just you started doing YouTube. I wasn't doing YouTube at that time. But you were like, I think I want to do makeup. And I was like, go for it. And then you were super embarrassed that I watched your video.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it was really good.
But also I needed him to watch the video.
I watched it.
Yeah.
It was good. So we didn't do much in Alaska. I mean, she tried to hook me up with her friend.
I did.
And I actually tried.
Yeah.
I wrote a song.
Made a video.
She was my Valentine.
Yeah.
But the whole time it was always constant communication between us two.
Yeah. We literally made a joke that we hadn't gone one day without texting each other for a whole year. And it was every single day we would talk.
I remember like a year later, after we met, a year or two later, we had such good conversation in text that were so funny. I wanted to like screenshot them. My idea was to take every single text we ever had from start to finish, because I never deleted the very first text she wrote, which was, hey, this is Gloria. She said Maria, and all the way down to a year and a half later. And I wanted to make a book, just like this was our conversation, and call it Friendship Mountain, because it took 2 hours
just to scroll all the way up.
And my phone would sometimes die. But yeah, we texted every single day. It was super fun. And then who left first?
You did.
Did I leave?
You left first.
Yeah, because I drove down to Arkansas.
Yep.
Anything else in Alaska you want to cover?
No, you dyed my hair.
I dyed your hair. We watched a bunch of videos.
We watched a bunch of movies. That's about it. Oh, that's when he told me he had a crush on somebody and he wouldn't tell me who it was.
It was your friend. which she did not feel the same about me.
Yeah.
We're still friends with her, though.
Yeah.
Hi, Beto.
Hi, Beto. Well, then you moved back to Arkansas. You drove down with your uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stayed up there, which I thought I was going to stay up there for another 2 years. And that was cut very short, thank God, because we got our papers to move to Maryland in September. So by October, we were in Maryland. We also drove down through Canada. And then once we got to Maryland, I was like, I need a job. My ex was obviously in the Army, so he was busy. And then I do not believe in daycares. I never have trusted daycares. I do not trust daycares. I wanted to hire somebody, but I didn't know who I could trust and could leave in my home full time with my child. And believe it or not, my ex-husband's idea was, let's call Brandon because he's always been so good with Autumn. We both know him. We both trust him in our home. Have him move up here with us. He can watch the baby. He can live here. He won't have to pay rent. At the time, his job kind of required him to be at home anyway. So it all kind of worked out. So I texted him, hey, you want to move up to Maryland? And he replied with,
Like right now?
yeah.
And then I did.
Yeah. So my parents stayed with us for a month, but by December he was up there because I remember you came up here 2 days after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah. He drove from Arkansas all the way to Maryland.
16 hours straight.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like driving. I didn't have enough money to get a hotel.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to have to go full on all the way.
Yep. And he did.
I did. Maryland was fun, but Maryland was me and Autumn 97% of the time.
Oh, yeah.
It was...
I almost felt bad.
Maryland was... It was scary because when she asked me... I was, at the time, selling Pokemon cards on eBay.
Yeah.
And I was doing great.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably the most lucrative business I've ever had in my life. I think I made $50,000 in a year.
Yep.
Selling Pokemon cards.
On eBay.
On eBay. So I was like, I can definitely go wherever I want. How cool would that be? But I was super nervous because I never taken care, was the main caretaker of a child. So I watched nonstop YouTube videos for like a week and a half of like baby CPR, how to change a diaper, because I was that clueless.
Yeah.
And so right when I got up there, I think it was day one, both of you went to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to take care of Autumn. And I remember the first thing was, her ex-husband's name is also Brandon.
BT Dubs.
I don't want to get it confused. You had already gone to work. It was me and Brandon and Autumn at the house, and Brandon was like, I'm going to go work out. Just if she poops, change her.
Yeah.
Make sure you feed her. And I was like, dope. And then Autumn walks over to the corner of the house and just squats a little. And he's like, she's pooping right now, actually. He's like, just give her a little time. And then Brandon changed her. And then he left. And that was our thing. Like, now I take care of Autumn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of weird at first because I didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually I got to the point to where I had Autumn on a sleep schedule.
Yeah.
I was like, when do you want Autumn to be in bed? Before I get home from work. You got it.
Yeah.
So I'd shut TVs off an hour and a half before I wanted to put her in bed. She'd be so bored just walking around the house, looking around, and she'd play with a toy, and then
she'd get bored.
And she'd just pass out, and I would take her up to the room.
What was your favorite part, though, about taking care of Autumn?
She's funny. I would always try to send videos while she's at work.
Yeah.
I think the funniest thing I've ever witnessed with Autumn, we had a lot of scares, but the funniest thing was I found a flashlight. I was on the floor, and I clicked it. And their dog, Kanye, what kind of dog was he?
He was a black lab.
Black lab, huge. I clicked it, and he went crazy. was trying to chase the light on the wall. And so I started shaking it like a strobe light, and he was just like, light, 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 light. And Autumn is just sitting there and dying laughing with the cutest little baby laugh, which I still have on my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
The cutest little thing. But that was the most fun part, was watching her just figure life out and realize, like, I felt like I knew Autumn the most a person could know Autumn when she was 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was at that age to where she was learning all kinds of stuff. So when she got into something new, I knew. And I was like, she's into this now. Like, no, she doesn't like bubble guppies anymore. But I enjoyed, I think, learning her and kind of having that exclusivity of just me and Autumn.
Yeah.
Because like I'd figure out what the best time was when she would fall asleep, what the best time is for a nap, how to get her to fall asleep. And just learning it, I don't know, it was just fun for me all around. And the relationship with everybody in the house was really fun. Like Brandon started to take me to work out, and that was fun. That's when I started doing YouTube more.
Yep.
Because I started when I went back.
Mm-hmm.
So in Maryland, we started writing sketches together, and we did a whole bunch together while we were there, which I deleted some of them because I was scared YouTube would take them down because of copyright.
Yeah.
MBMG.
It's all right.
No, it's not.
B-Dog.
She's super upset about it.
Only on the inside.
Sometimes on the outside, physically. But that's what Maryland was for me. It was just, I saw it as me and Autumn time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you and me growing in like a, not business, but creative way together.
I think that's where we discovered that we kind of wanted to do stuff in the same path. Not necessarily the same way, but that's when we knew we're both into creating our own content. And we started kind of working towards that together, whether it was spoofing a movie or just doing a random little video. And Ginger was coming up heavy at the time also, which was really fun.
It was the year of the ginge.
It was the year of the ginge smoothie sandwich.
Smoothie sandwich.
That was fun. Autumn is a super baby in that one.
50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Ginger.
Maryland was fun.
Maryland was fun. Not so much for me towards the end of it, because that's when my marriage started falling apart. And I don't...
Which is where a lot of the what did you do wrong came out of.
Yeah. So everything kind of became really toxic in the house. Because it all happened in a night. Literally. And I'm not going to go into details of that because that's in between me and Autumn's dad. And that's business that's very much his as well. And I know he wouldn't want that to come to the light.
We don't want to do that.
And we're not about to do that.
And we're all at fault.
And we are all at fault here.
It's not just his fault.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to bring up what happened there. But, because the situation got super toxic in Maryland, I sent him home.
A poor boy.
Yeah. I told him, hey, I think things aren't going to get any better here. I don't want you in an awkward situation. I think you need to go. Which he totally understood because he felt the energy in the house. He knew what had happened. He was in the room with me when everything happened. He knew. I think you also knew. Like you knew.
I knew. Yeah. I felt the energy, 100%.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I think I asked to go home.
Yeah.
The only reason I felt bad was because I promised Brandon that I would, I'd be there for the summer. Mm-hmm. So you guys could really save up money.
Yeah, that was the goal.
That was the goal. And I felt horrible coming to him and saying, hey, I think I'm going to go back home. Yeah. Like midsummer.
Yeah.
Which was hard for me.
But it had to be done.
True.
And then that's when I decided I wanted to split from my ex. Or at least separate. the camera stopped recording.
Ah!
So pause on the story.
You can keep going.
So that's when I decided to separate. I stayed there for a few months trying to kind of figure out my whole situation and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to go about it. But eventually I just realized I wanted to be away. And that I wanted to go move back to California and kind of be with my family. And I wanted to also get my daughter out of that situation because it wasn't fair to her. So I actually decided I'm going to drive to California. And then because we stayed in contact, obviously he was my best friend. He was like, well, I want to go out to California. So let's drive to California together. Also, I don't think he wanted me to drive with a baby.
You're such a bad driver. So bad. And that was my baby.
Yeah.
She was my little baby.
Yeah. So we got to Arkansas. And then I decided, no, I want to go back to Maryland. I want to go work things out. My indecisiveness is going to come into play a lot here. Just put a pin in that, because we will come back to that. But eventually, I did go back to Maryland. I drove back to Maryland. And then we as a family were like, let's try and make it work. We flew together as a family, me, my ex, and Autumn, to California. We visited with my family. My brother was getting married at the time, so we all went.
Leo?
No, Edwin. Edwin's wedding.
Remarried. Gotcha,
yeah.
Gotcha.
So once we got there, it did not go well at all. Things got progressively worse to the point where I had a return flight back to Maryland, but I never went back to Maryland permanently to stay. I decided that I didn't want to be in the marriage, and so I just stayed at home with my family, and I kept Autumn. And that's when I started going through what I want to call the blue period, the worst time of my life. It was very difficult, incredibly difficult. Anybody who has ever separated or been divorced, baby in between or not, it sucks. It is the worst thing on the planet. It's incredibly painful. And I was going through a lot. Like a lot. I don't want to cry. Babe, you take it from here.
Going through a lot. In the meantime, I was in Arkansas the whole time, and I grew up in Arkansas. And we grew up in such a small town where there's nothing. There's fields and just pastures, and that's it. And it's very boring there. I didn't have family there. It was just me and my mom, and I love my mom, and we had a good time. But my whole dream in life was to, since I was little, I wanted to live in California. I wanted to live in LA because I wanted to pursue acting and comedy. So I was in Arkansas. I had the red Nissan that I eventually ended up living in. But I was in that. I was still doing the Pokemon thing. So I had money coming in, but I didn't have a lot. And we kept in contact while everything was going on. She's like, I'm going to stay with my family for a while in California. And I was like, dope. And I took that as a reason for me to move, because I was scared to just go to California without knowing anybody. But I knew if she was there, then I could find a way. You know, at least I knew somebody when I lived there. And I was going through like baby withdrawals. I wanted to see Autumn. I missed Gloria, and I was like, I've always wanted to live in California. Why not? So that's when, with the help of my mom, which eternally grateful, I sold everything I own. Literally I had Michael Jordan collection like you wouldn't believe. Valuables. I sold everything to where it was just a suitcase and my guitars. And I drove to California. And when I got there, like, my goal wasn't to say, hey, Gloria, I'm at your house. Can you, what is that?
I know, I heard that. I was like,
Office is closed. My whole idea wasn't like, Gloria, let me come stay with you. I was willing to make it work on my own without the help of her, because I realized she was going through a lot, and I never want to impose. So I ended up living off of debt, living in a hotel for a couple months. I think the original plan for me to move to California was, of course, go to VidCon, a big convention for YouTubers and content creators. So we went to that together, which was super fun because I've always wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I just stayed. I was there. I lived in a hotel and then eventually found a room inside of a 5-bedroom house that was for rent. And I lived in a bunch of people's homes and worked at Yard House the whole time. And we actually didn't see each other that much in the beginning.
No, because I went straight into working immediately too, into serving, which is a lot of work.
And I worked directly across the street from you.
So when we would see each other, it would be in between crossings because he worked morning shift. I worked night shifts mostly. So as soon as he would get off, he'd be like, hey, when is your shift? Do you want to grab some lunch before? Do you want to hang out before? Little things like that. It was like, let's get lunch. Or when I would get off work, he'd be like, hey, do you want to go grab some dessert and some coffee? Because that was like our thing. We would always go out at night and get dessert and coffee.
At the place I worked.
At the place he worked. And that's, again, where our friendship even became more, because he became so much more to me than just a friend. He was my person. And to this day, he is my person. If I was happy, I wanted to share that with him. If I was sad, I wanted to share that with him. If I was angry, I would let it out on him, which is bad.
I got the best of all three worlds.
But he was my person, and it was just as easy as breathing to be with him, because I didn't really have a lot of friends because I had a baby and I couldn't go out because I had a baby. Yet he was always like, what can we do? And we can take Autumn. Or what can we do that involves a baby? He was just there for me. And again, I was going through a lot and I needed that.
And I loved Autumn as well.
Yeah.
But that was fun. I got to meet your family.
Yeah.
The first time I was in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Met your family. I moved to all these different houses.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't get to see each other a lot.
No.
Because of our conflicting work schedules.
Mm-hmm.
But we did find time for each other. We always did.
Yep.
We always enjoyed each other's company no matter what we did.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I think after a while of living in Sacramento, I think it maybe a year or so, you went back to Maryland one more time.
Yeah.
When was that?
Probably around the year mark. So it was in the summer when I decided to stay.
Yeah.
The year mark from that. So still in the summer.
The next summer.
Yeah. Was when I went back to Maryland. Already separated. Thinking, you know what? Maybe this could work out. Again, here's where my indecisiveness comes into play. I had a lot of guilt that I was working through. I grew up in a family that had never seen divorce. Ever. Not even in like uncles, aunts, like outside family. My family had never seen divorce until mine. And I, in that situation, did not want to be the first, and I did not want to be the disappointment, because my parents are very, very old school, and I've never been a people pleaser, but I've always chased the approval of my parents, and I knew that my dad was very disappointed in the fact that I wanted to choose my happiness, and that guilt on top of Autumn obviously missed her dad. I was very conflicted, and I so badly wanted to just like bite the bullet and for their happiness say, okay, I'm going to go back to work on this. That's how my mind worked, and I wasted a lot of time doing that.
I think I pushed you into that as well.
Yeah.
Because we talked a lot about it, and any concern you ever had or any idea of wanting to go back, you always brought up to me.
Yeah.
And I knew both sides of the story, which is why I felt like I was a good, sound reason.
And you were.
And I think I pushed it quite a bit because I didn't see how Brandon was reacting because he was in Maryland. I saw how you were reacting, and I was like, yeah. I say if you have any inkling inside of your body of like, I think I should work it out.
Yeah.
You got to go up there and at least try, because you'll hate and regret, and you'll hate yourself if, 10 years down the road you say, maybe we could have worked out if I went back and tried one more time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think you have to.
Mm-hmm.
So
I went back. It did not work out again. I came back. This is hard for me to talk about because at that moment, Brandon had already told me how he truly felt. And this is where it gets really difficult for me. Because I couldn't reciprocate that, even though I knew in my heart this was the better option all along. And I was with my person, like I've been saying, who I knew would make me happy. But I couldn't wrap my mind around saying, no, Autumn, you can't grow up with your dad like most kids do, because I want to be happy. I could not wrap my mind around that, and I couldn't be that selfish, and let alone live in a house, because I was living with my parents, where I knew I was getting looked at like a quitter almost.
But the thing about that is nobody knew the situation. They saw Gloria just come home with the baby. And I think maybe your mom knew.
Yeah.
Maybe your mom was the only person who knew both sides of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so you didn't really get that support from your family because they didn't see the other side of it.
Exactly.
And it was just a lot of assumptions put on you.
And also, I never opened up. He was the only person I opened up to. So nobody really knew, because I chose not to let them know because I thought that would be better. And again, I knew I was hurting somebody who had been there for me through so much and still willing to love me.
Well, I encouraged you to go back. I was the one who said you're going to want to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I knew I liked you more than a friend early on, but I'm very respectful of those feelings, especially because of your situation.
And very selfless.
And even in California, when you'd already made that decision to be separated, I'm very respectful of that. And I think at one point you literally said, I really do just need a friend.
Yeah.
And I understood that, instead of taking it the wrong way and saying, well, I'm going to leave.
Yep.
I understood what you needed, and I tried to be that. And then this is where it gets super hard for everyone. I moved away from you. And that was kind of for two reasons. I've always wanted to be in LA. We were in Sacramento at the time. I'd lived there for 2 years. I moved to LA to pursue acting and a career in comedy. I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I knew if I didn't take this one chance, I wouldn't make it. I would work at a restaurant the rest of my life, which I had done up until that point. And I had no plans at all except my car is shelter, live in it. So my plan was to just live in my car because I couldn't afford LA, but I wanted to take advantage of LA and what it could offer me in my career, for one. And for two, I knew I was getting really hurt in a lot of ways. And whether or not it was a selfish choice or if it was the right choice, I knew I had to distance myself because I felt like I was the wedge between the marriage at that point. And I was like, I don't want to be this. I don't want to be the person who drives either of you away from each other, and I don't want to be the person who ruins a marriage just because I'm here. So for that reason and other reasons, I moved, and we stopped talking after a couple months, nearly completely. Absolutely stopped talking. We didn't talk to each other for over a year.
No, not.
Couple months.
Months would go by, but then again, you guys have to understand, like, playback, we never stopped texting each other. We weren't the people to ever stop communicating. So even going a day without hearing from him was hard. But I knew why he was leaving. I wasn't dumb. I was very supportive of why he wanted to go career-wise. But I also knew in the back of my mind what he was doing. And I think he put it perfectly right now. You don't know if it was the selfish thing or the right thing. I think it was both. And I applaud him for that. Because that strength that he showed, I was mad at him because it was strength I wish I had. It was something I wish I would have done. Like, I wish I could have been that selfish and knowing the right decision to make all along. But I didn't. And he did. And I still to this day applaud him for that. I don't hold anything against you.
I think LA was the roughest time for both of us. One, I always have a vision for something, and I always know what I have to do to get there. And I had a vision for our relationship that it wasn't working in Sacramento. As much as I tried, it was beating a dead horse, and I was tired of trying and taking steps back while doing it. So I knew I had to, at that point, I loved Gloria, and I still do, but I knew I had all these mixed ideas about her, and I thought of her in this really negative light for a while. And I felt this really negative way towards her. So I knew if I wanted to ever get to the point we are now, which was my vision, I had to, one, remove myself from the situation, and two, break contact. Three, get her out of my heart, so to speak. Like, remove her from my life completely. That way, a strong foundation could be built, because we were built on a shaky foundation. And we would have just kept trying to pile bricks on top of the shaky foundation until one day it just topples over. Mm-hmm. Instead, I had this vision of starting fresh with a clean heart, mind, and ideas about you, and then starting again as friends, which I knew it wouldn't take as long because we already knew each other. So I moved to LA.
LA was hard.
LA was hard for her.
Yep.
It was hard for me. I didn't have friends or family when I was there, and I lived in my car, which was lonely enough. Two, it wasn't like I weaned myself off of her in autumn before leaving. It was very abrupt. It was quick. And I moved. And I missed autumn. And then I didn't stay in contact with you, so I very rarely know what you went through other than what you've told me.
No, so he left in,
June?
when was it, July 1st or June 1st?
June 1st.
He left June 1st. By, I would say, July, August, I made the decision because I had a breakdown, I would say probably in July, where my dad, because he also hated that I was so back and forth. But I remember this night because at this point my dad sat me down and was like, I don't know what you're holding on to. We just want you to be happy. And I broke down and I was like, I want to be happy too. And he was like, then be happy. And I was like, my happiness isn't with this marriage anymore. And that's when he finally was like, I don't care. I just want you to be happy. And those words meant so much to me because my dad was truly the one I was most worried about. Because I had finally talked to my sister. And my sister was incredible. My mom, everybody was like, we don't care what you do. We just want you to be happy because we see you going back and forth and you look sick and you're not you anymore. And Autumn feels it, and she did. I wasn't good to her. I wasn't the best to her. And finally, when I heard my dad say, I don't care, I just want you to be happy, was when I said, I'm done. I'm done. Because really it was just me carrying that shame of being the first in my family. Like, what a disappointment. I didn't want to be to anybody. And I had come to peace with Autumn because I promised Autumn that she was gonna grow up with her dad. And I don't care if I have to drive miles, if I have to pay plane tickets. I want you to grow up with your dad as much as possible. That's why I don't keep her from her dad ever, to the point where he almost gets onto me about it, that I'm so lenient. But it's because that was the promise I made to her, was I know I'm making this decision to separate the family, but I'm going to do whatever I can to know that you're happy with your dad and that you guys have a relationship like I did. Because I did grow up with both of my parents, and I knew I was taking that away from my kid, and I've never experienced that. There was no divorce in my family. So that's when I decided that I was done. So at that point, though, Brandon got a girlfriend in LA. And at that point was when he told me, we can no longer be, because it would be disrespectful to this relationship. And I understood, but I could not believe that at that point, when I finally was like, I'm free, maybe now I could actually pursue my person that I knew I had feelings for, but I had to squash because me choosing my happiness was just not something I, again, could wrap myself around. Like, the idea of that was like, how selfish is that? But I finally felt free. But at that point, he was gone. So LA was hard for me because I was going through that divorce, that separation. But I was also going through losing my best friend. And I was miserable. But all I could do was, and I'm so good at this, was latch on to distractions and keeping myself busy. So I went into doing construction and performing at the Comedy Spot and taking any class I could just to keep my mind busy and to keep myself going. I could have worked at Aeropostale, but I chose labor. I chose construction because I knew I would just get home and sleep and I didn't have to feel anything. And that's where I was when you were in LA.
I was not in a similar boat. I didn't have to go through, separation, which I saw was difficult for you. I didn't have to go through that. And that's why I think it was a selfish thing. But I don't know. I knew you were really far from being okay to even be in a relationship again. Coming right out of a divorce is never the right time. And I was afraid that I would kind of pressure you into that. And I wanted you to be able to figure it out without leaning on me. And that's also a selfish thing, I think. But I ended up dating someone, and I wanted to be respectful to that relationship to the point to where, because I'm going to be open in that relationship and tell her, hey, I had feelings for Gloria. She's my best friend. I wouldn't want to keep that a secret from someone I'm dating. So I made the decision to cut off all ties and pursue my life with this girl and my career choice. And that's when I started doing videos. Was very soon after that I started doing these videos. The daily videos, the vlogging, because a lot of people tell me, like, your videos have helped me so much. They help me so much with, this, and this going on in my life. And I realized, working at Yard House, and I would write every morning, I realized what comedy was, and it was a way to distract people, and it was a way to reduce suffering. So after realizing that, I decided that's what I was going to do, not only for myself, but for other people. So when I started making videos, not only was it a distraction for me, but it kept my mind busy. So I didn't have to think about, leaving or think about what I did. And because I was still thinking of Gloria in a relationship, which isn't healthy. But the videos kind of eased a little bit of that pain for me. And that's why I decided to do a lot of them daily. I made it my life until it became, it became fun for me, and it wasn't distracting me from anything. It was something I enjoyed, and it kept my mind off a lot of things. And eventually, I would contact Gloria every once in a while because I'm weak. And I'd be super lonely, and I would call her and I'd say...
Or he would email
you. Just to see how she was doing, how Autumn was doing. And...
I don't think we went more than 3 months, even in the year of him being in LA and me going through everything. I think we would send an exchange of emails every 2-3 months. And it would just be like, hey, how are you? Hope you're doing good. Thanksgiving, we FaceTimed. And I just wanted to make sure you were, because I sent him an email and I was like, I just want to make sure you're okay. I want you to know I'm thankful for you. And Autumn's doing good. And I would just be very me and be very sarcastic and still kind of jokey. And I remember he FaceTimed me almost immediately after I sent that email. And then we talked for a while. And then he told me that he was miserable. And he told me that he was not happy, that he didn't feel like he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. But because my first instinct was, well, move back then. Come back to the comedy spot. You can do comedy here. Don't go broke in LA.
I did.
But because he was all right. Yeah,
I was broke by then.
And that conversation, I remember him telling me, like, I'm putting coffee on credit cards. Like, it's bad. And I was like, well, come up here then. And I remember him saying, I don't know why I'm here, but I know I have to be here.
It's true.
And so I kind of let the conversation be at that. Because now, in the grand scheme of it all, it makes sense. It all played out perfectly. You did have to be there. You did have to live in your car. You did have to get fired. All that.
Yeah.
So it all made sense.
I love it when people are like, we want to hear your love story. It's like, it's far from that.
Yeah.
We've worked on it. We've worked for it.
Yeah. It didn't really become a love story until about a few months ago.
Mm-mm. Because up until I got fired in August last year, and September 1st,
Mm-hmm.
she told me, she was like, my family's leaving for Mexico. Why don't you come up? You could stay at the house.
Mm-hmm.
We can, I will take care of you. I'll feed you. I'll pay for groceries. I'll pay for everything. Just get up here. And I was already, I believe, broken up with my ex-girlfriend by then.
You were.
I was broken up with her.
You came up here in August with Angel for literally like 16
Yes.
hours?
Yeah, for a couple hours.
So yeah, by that time you were already broken up.
Yeah. And then, so I didn't want to be in LA if I wasn't working because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it working. So I knew I couldn't afford it not working. And so I panicked. And it felt right just to go back. And it took my boss sitting me down and saying, you are fired. Like, you cannot work here anymore. Something I put 5 years of my life into really well. Just gone in a day. So I came back September 1st, and she just took me in. I was broke, so she paid for everything. And
Yeah, here's the thing. I'm going to interject a little bit. Even though we had stopped talking for the most part, we fell right back into friend mode immediately. Because even when you came
that's
back
what
up,
we know.
yeah, you came up here with Angel, and I was happy to see you. But immediately, we greeted each other pretending to be airplanes outside of IHOP.
True.
So we fell right back into it. What I'm trying to get at is it felt right. Nothing felt forced, at least not on my end. It felt like even with all of that, I got my friend back like that. It was like we didn't skip a beat. And that's something that I'm still so grateful for, because we would go months without talking, and then he would send me a message or an email, and it'd be right back into like we never stopped talking. So, and that's really cool.
Yeah. It was also super hard because I came back in September, and when I left, Autumn couldn't speak. And when I came back, Autumn was talking. Full sentences to the fact that the first thing she said to me was, why did you ignore mommy?
Oh, yeah.
She called me out.
Hard.
Why do you keep pressing the red button on the phone?
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you explain that to a 5-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
She was 4 at the time. It's like, I don't know how to go about it. So that, you're doing wrong if a 5-year-old tells you you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
But I came back, and I kept doing the videos because she allowed it. Like, I don't care, just do you. And I did. I didn't get a job. She still worked construction, and I stayed home. And then on the 22 days later, I did the knitting video in her house, in her room.
Autumn was sleeping.
Autumn was asleep. I decided not to go to her comedy show because I wanted to do a video.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day it started making money enough to where I was like, 2.5 years, I can afford to go get a place to live.
Mm-hmm.
I can buy my own food. And that was That never would have happened at all if I would have tried to force it in LA. The only reason it happened is because Gloria took me in after months of not talking, took me in and said, hey, I believe in your craft and I believe in what you do. Do it. I'll support you. And it took less than a month.
Yep.
And then it popped off.
Yep.
And then since then, we've been together nonstop. And then in December, and a lot of people think it's just knowing Brandon, it's probably something really big. He asked you out in a really big way. No. It was like me whispering into the front of her face, you want to be my girlfriend?
Yeah, but what happened though, babe?
You said no.
What happened?
You said, I don't want to talk to you.
No, what switched in you?
What do you mean?
Yeah, that you decided to ask me out.
Well, I got there in September.
Yeah.
And we spent all of our time together. And I got to know you again.
Did old feelings resurface?
No. Because I dropped all the old feelings.
Uh-huh.
That's why it took me a while to get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But what came from it was a lot sturdier foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't even talk about dating. We were both single
Mm-hmm.
for 4 or 5 months.
Well, longer than that for me, but...
I mean, since I lived with you.
Oh, yeah.
When I came back in September, we didn't even talk about it. We just built a really great foundation, which is what I wanted in the beginning, and it just happened perfectly.
Yeah, that's why we weren't lying when we said we would have date nights before we even started dating.
Oh, yeah. Take Autumn out.
We would take Autumn out. We would decide what we wanted to do, and we called it date night. And even when my family came back, it was funny because we had people back in the house all the time, and he came up to me and was like, when are we just gonna hang out again? And that was really cute. But we've always, yeah, we had date nights, but it was always just like we just wanted to hang out with each other because we enjoyed each other's company. I definitely had feelings for him. Hard. And I told him.
And then I whispered to your face.
No.
Mm-hmm.
You spent Christmas with your family.
Yep.
I remember that.
It was after Christmas.
Yeah. And then you did the meet and greet. And then he texted me, I really wish you were here. And then he texted me the next day, I've been thinking about you a lot. And then the whole layover in Dallas happened.
Ugh, I forgot about that. It's a horrible time in my life. 24 hours in the Dallas airport.
And I was staying at his house. I was house sitting, also like house trying to organize because that's when all the flood of packages first surfaced. And also I just wanted to be in his house because I like being alone. And then he came back and he gave me my Christmas present because I picked him up from the airport. And it really wasn't like a big thing. We literally were laying down after opening each other's Christmas presents on the floor, or was it on your bed?
It was on the bed.
We were just laying down, and then he looked over and was like, do you want to be my girlfriend? And
I whispered it in your front face.
He whispered it in my front face. And then
wide eyes. Be my girlfriend.
Yeah. And then I said,
nah, fam, I'm solid.
I said yes.
Oh, yeah, she said yes.
I said yes. And then we kissed.
And then we still don't kiss
sometimes.
We kiss. But that's what people have been asking us to tell.
I feel like I disappointed a lot of people.
Every single live I get, can you tell us your story about you and Gloria? I was like, can't be told in 10 minutes.
No.
Can't be told on a live. There's
definitely
no way.
Not.
There's so many intricate working parts.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we met, we knew we loved each other, dated.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
People do want to ask. People do ask though, who got feelings first?
Oh, hard me.
He got feelings first.
Definitely.
But
I wasn't dealing with another human being.
um,
I was open to it.
yeah, he got feelings first. But the question I get asked the most is, when did you know he was the one? I knew pretty early on. I knew he was my person, like pretty early on as well. I would say when you moved here from Arkansas. But I could not let myself live that again because it would mean so many selfish things from me, and I wasn't accepting of that. I didn't let go of guilt or shame or let myself be happy for years. Another question I get asked, what's my favorite thing about Brandon?
My one waxed leg.
Yeah. That one right there. Which one is it?
It feels so weird. It's this one.
My favorite thing about Brandon is his drive. I feel like if you would have asked me this 3 years ago, I would have been like, his sense of humor. But no. Even though it's one of my favorite things about him, and he has one of my favorite senses of humor on the planet because it's so different from what I grew up having. It's his drive. And I've always told him his focus, I think, could shape diamonds. It's laser. It is one direction. And it is like once he says he's going to do something, it's done. Just like that. It's done. Because I've been around other people who have made me laugh. I've been around comedians. You know, I am a performer at a comedy spot. Like all I know is comedians and funny people. But what set him apart for me and what made me say, this is my person, this is my best friend, was the fact that I would say, I want to be like him. I'm not one who gets influenced by anybody. And the only other person that I would say matches that drive and that want to succeed and now he hates being stagnant is me. So I know I needed to find somebody who would keep me motivated and keep me kind of on my toes, which he does. He's still very unbiased. He still calls me out on my stuff all the time, and I love that about him. But once he told me the story of how he learned to play guitar 16 hours a day, basketball, how much was that?
Like 8.
8 hours a day. That obsession, that's what I think made us become really close friends immediately. Because I was very much like that too. Like if I wanted to do something, YouTube, done. I just wanted to do it and I wanted to jump in and do it. And he keeps me incredibly motivated all the time. And I can honestly say I've never met anybody like him. The only person I could kind of compare to him is me. And he beats me by a landslide.
Physically.
By a landslide. And I love him. And I'm so happy.
And I love her.
And he's my person.
And I am your man.
Yeah.
I don't know any more of that song.
That's all you need to know.
Babe, I love you so much.
I love you, babe.
I love you so much.
That's our love story.
That's our dark love story.
Yeah.
It's the color black, our favorite.
Mm.
Onyx.
I love you.
I love you.
Are you happy we're here now?
I am.
Yeah?
This is what I envisioned.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you really happy now?
I'm always happy.
Because of our relationship?
Yeah. Because of our relationship.
Yeah. Should we kiss on it?
You know what? I think they've seen enough.
Okay.
This is like MTV Cribs. Nah, y'all gotta get out of here.
Do you ever get asked that? That's like my most asked question. What's your favorite
What?
thing about Brandon? What's your favorite thing about
No,
Brandon?
they don't ask me, but I don't mind saying it. My favorite thing about you in the beginning was definitely your humor. Because I was only around people like my humor.
Mm-hmm.
So your humor was so different. And I tell anybody that the first time we met, that like first year or so, was the most I've ever belly laughed in my entire life. I don't think I've ever laughed harder in my entire life than when you made me laugh. Because you would say things that I never heard someone say before. not like curse words. Your jokes were so different. And then getting to know you, I respect my own drive to notice it in other people, which is why I want to help people who are already driven, who just don't have a platform for it. So, not really, I appreciate your drive, but I love that you're willing to step out of your comfort zone to get whatever you want. And I saw you do that a lot, especially with comedy. And you just jumped full force into it. And I respect that. I see a lot of me in you. And a lot of me in you later too.
Yeah.
Ah,
My humor's rubbing off on you.
gross. I'm not bad.
No.
Oof.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was a love story, everybody.
It's only going to get longer
Yeah.
as time goes on.
Yeah. We love each other. We love Autumn.
Autumn loves her dad.
Autumn loves her dad.
And I love her dad.
And Autumn loves her Beebs. And I think she likes me.
We're unsure.
We haven't made it in the journal yet.
It's true. Well.
Come here, babe.
No. I'm not going to cut it off mid-kiss, babe.
Come here, babe.
No, because the video will... Babe! Coffee to babies.
Did you cut it?
What did I get? No, I'm still recording.
What?
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say?
One more.
With my heart walking outside of my body.
Babe, I love... Was that